Good morning. It is Monday, February the 13th, 2023. I'm Pearson Bowen. This is the CBC Morning Report. A multifaceted approach is being mounted to get guns off the streets of Barbados and to keep crime down. The latest, gloves for guns. Well, joining us live now to tell us about this latest effort and about other approaches is the Minister of State with responsibility for crime prevention, Corey Lane. Minister Lane, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning to you and good morning to Barbados.
Thank you for joining us. Explain for us how this initiative, Gloves for Guns, will aid in the effort to respond to the gun crime as we see it.
Hi, thanks again. So just as you say, we're having a multifaceted approach. One of the things I've noticed from I was growing up till now is that we continue to say, don't do this, don't do that, put down the guns, put down the spliffs. And one of the things that we need to also do is to say what to pick up and what to do. So Gloves Over Guns is an initiative of the Barbados Boxing Association in association with the Ministry of Youth and the National Sports Council. And what they're really doing is, one of the approaches we see to work, which is to go into the communities and offer another activity, a positive activity for young people to be involved in. And you would appreciate that sports gives you that type of discipline, that type of focus that you can, utilize in a positive way. And in addition to that, one of the things we're recognizing that there's a lot of anger and a lot of energy in our young persons, and we believe that through these types of sports, martial arts, jiu-jitsu, etc., that this will, be able to move the needle in terms of some of the violence that we're seeing.
You said it's a multifaceted approach to responding to the gun crime, and so this effort, to my mind, approaches younger people. What about the more middle-aged to the older persons who are also finding themselves in this deviant behavior?
Right, so this gives me an opportunity to kind of remind Barbadians or notify Barbadians, those who may not know about the plan itself. We have over 150 initiatives. One of the initiatives we spent a lot of time on yesterday was our parenting initiatives. Now, remember that there are a number of people doing parenting training, parenting awareness, and all those different things. But one of the things that we're looking at, as you say, with the older persons is a de-traumatization effort. One of the things we realize is you can't just, go out there and just do initiatives for doing initiatives' sake. There's a lot of research and a lot of thought that goes into these initiatives. And one of the things we're recognizing is that hurt people, persons with emotional wounds are causing a lot of physical wounds. So as we trace back, looking at the root causes of a lot of things that we're seeing, we're recognizing that people carry a lot of personal trauma. They're also carrying a lot of collective trauma. Our collective trauma go back to our colonial past, and our personal trauma has to do with a lot of things that we have. A lot of parents have a lot of personal trauma. And if we don't address the trauma, we don't address the self-worth, those root causes, we're just going to be spinning top in mud. So there are lots of initiatives, as I said, tackling all sectors of society in terms of institutional reforms that we need to make sure that this thing is sustainable, that it is long-term. There are initiatives for, as you say, for the young, for those prison. There's a wide sweeping net that we have cast in to ensure that we tackle this thing in the short term, in the medium term, in the long term, in the most sustainable way.
It might be too early to say, but from where you sit, can you characterize how the plan has been rolled out and how it's been received and what kinds of successes there might be?
A lot of people tell me it's too early, right? In terms of when I say I am quite happy with certain things that have been done so far. I'm very happy with our short-term plan, Pearson. Our short-term plan, for me, flipped the script on a lot of things that we were doing, but we were missing out an element, which is the human element. So I like to talk about our direct intervention program, where we just went directly through an NGO, through persons who are trained, through persons who are doing it in a small way, to all these different communities, to all these different places causing a lot of problems, and having direct contact with them saying, look, what's going on here, and a lot of other things we won't be able to talk about, but you can see the impact of it. And I'm the first to confess and admit that it is obviously short term, and that's why we have to get these other things going on. So I'm quite satisfied with what I've seen and what I am seeing so far. Just imagine, especially the mitigation of retaliation and views. Just imagine you have a set of girls and guys who are very familiar with the streets, very familiar with gang life and block life, who've turned their life around in a major way, in some cases given their life to Christ. They still have that very cool demeanor about them. And they are familiar or know of people who want to kill each other. And they go to their houses, they talk to their families, they talk to them, they talk to one side, then they talk to the other side. And in one case, we plan the plan to have a barbecue together after that thing is settled to ensure that we have that sustainable thing. Because things can pop up. Remember that we almost sitting down on a keg waiting to explode because things happen. This person in this other association don't associate with this body and this body get away, and these things happen. But just imagine that particular initiative as it's being rolled out, and I'm getting constant updates. So it's going out very positive and encouraging updates. So you can start to see some work being done there. My concern or my greater excitement is towards the medium to long term because, as I say, that's just the short term.
How do we as average Barbadians then begin to measure it with you? Because when you hear the stories, one gets the impression that nothing seems to be working. So how do we monitor so that we can see the success that you see?
Right. One of the things we're going to be doing, coupled together, is some dashboards, and the dashboards are really supposed to give you an idea of real-time crime statistics. And also our national plan will have its own dashboard as well. So you can see the number of initiatives being rolled out and what they're looking at, who we're partnering with. So you have that full open accountability and transparency, but it also gives you the opportunity to see, what's happening. I don't want to give the impression that nothing is working. We hear stories. These stories are showing that things are working. They're very inspirational, but it's very anecdotal. So what we want to do with the dashboard is kind of give you an overall helicopter view of what's happening in terms of the monitoring and evaluation through the dashboard and the crime observatory and so on.
Follow up on it. We want to thank you right there for having joined us this morning, Minister Corey Lane. Thank you so very much, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Minister of State with responsibility for crime prevention, Corey Lane, joining us here on the Morning Report. When we come back, we'll tell you what the Crime Monitoring and Oversight Committee in Jamaica is appealing to the public to do.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of your creativity. If you are an entrepreneur, artist, baker, designer, author, or have done anything you think should be highlighted, email us at morninbarbados@cbc.bb. Let us show the world our exceptional Bajan youth.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share? Then Mornin Barbados would love to feature your book in our The Next Chapter segment. Send us an email.
While Jamaica grapples with the ongoing issue of crime, the Crime Monitoring and Oversight Committee is appealing to the public to work cohesively to reduce exposure and vulnerability. Executive Director Colonel Oral Khan believes a cohesive approach is needed to curb crime in Jamaica. We have a report from CVM TV.
We really require all of Jamaica to fall in line to support the series of different initiatives which are being undertaken under the consensus. So there is work for the police to do, but there is work on the social side that must be done. There is work on the justice side There is work with the legislation.
While there has been a 31% drop in major crimes since 2023, CMOC continues to monitor the implementation of the National Crime Consensus. Colonel Khan says the National Crime Consensus is a very important agreement that outlines scores of priorities to reduce crime and corruption in Jamaica.
Consensus was agreed in 2020, and the CMOC continues to monitor and hold accountable the several agencies, ministries, departments of government that have a role to play in meeting the various deliverables. For example, the police force, they have a number of deliverables as part of the JCF transformation. The Ministry of Justice also furnishes report.
During his presentation on Wednesday at a press briefing at the Spanish Court Hotel in Kingston, he says there has been significant progress in building a culture of accountability in Jamaica.
The president of ExxonMobil Guyana, Alastair Rutledge, has defended the 2016 oil contract between the companies and Guyana's government, saying that country is benefiting more from it. And he stressed renegotiating the contract now will not augur well for investor confidence. According to him, ExxonMobil's local affiliate, Esso Exploration and Production Guyana Limited, and its co-ventures, Hess and CNOC, are already committed to spending about $30 billion.
Guyanese are benefiting more than the investors. It's very clear under the Starbuck Block production sharing agreement that 50% of the profit goes to the country and 50% to the investors. But then in addition to that, there's a 2% royalty, which comes out of the, if you like, the contractor's share, the investor's share of the revenues from the block, the profit from the block. So 52, in essence, 52% goes to the country. So now, beyond that, what is incredibly important for any country or any business is that there's stability. We've made now over $30 billion worth of investment commitment to the country based on the contract as it stands. To change the contract when you've already made that level of commitment would be very destructive to investor confidence in the Starbuck Block, and I would suspect more widely in the country.
From February the 24th, Trinidad and Tobago's government says only licensed scrap iron dealers can once again ply their trade within a new framework. Trading in copper remains illegal, as we hear more from TTT.
In a joint press conference, Attorney General Reginald Amor and Minister of Trade and Industry Paula Gopi-Schoon revealed that the Cabinet agreed to a partial proclamation of the Scrap Metal Act. This heralds the partial restart of the industry for previously licensed dealers only until April 14th. The Attorney General noted that during this transitional period, the government will use this time to complete the governing framework for the industry.
A regime is being built out. It is already significantly advanced by the Ministry of Trade, but in our respectful discretion, the government has taken the view that we need those few more months into 2023 to finish the build out of the regime. So in the meantime, only the old dealers and only dealers, not collectors, are going to be allowed to operate scrap metal business from their licensed sites.
There will also be the introduction of scrap metal inspectors, police, environmental officers and public health officers as authorized officers tasked to enforce and apply the provisions of the Act. This includes coming onto the site to inspect containers when an application is made to the Trade Minister to export.
Under this Act, persons must now apply for licenses to export to the extent that there may already be containers which were pre-packed before this Act comes into effect. The Minister will have the power under Section 39(3) of the Act to stipulate in writing conditions for those pre-packed containers to be allowed to export, provided they meet all of the conditions in the transition period.
Minister Gopi-Schoon outlined some of the new requirements that dealers must adhere to going forward.
It would only load scrap metal into containers at a scrap metal site listed in a scrap metal dealer's license. So the license would actually list the particular sites, and it's only on those sites that scrap metal can be loaded from.
Aid is now trickling into rebel-held areas in northern Syria. Rescue efforts were hampered in a region already devastated after years of war, with many saying they felt abandoned. Al Jazeera's Zaina Road reports.
Sadil was rescued from the rubble of her home in northwest Syria, which too was hit hard by Monday's earthquake in southern Turkey. As the 6-year-old girl recounts the horror of her experience, she still doesn't know how much she has lost.
The building swayed from one side to another, then there was destruction everywhere. I heard my mother calling my father's name. I then lost consciousness and woke up at the hospital. I didn't lose anyone in the quake, but I haven't seen anyone yet.
Her father and 3 of her siblings died.
Sadil doesn't know yet. We also didn't tell her mother because we're concerned about their health.
Stories of survival and deaths are heard over and over again. The biggest natural disaster to hit the region in decades is the latest crisis for the people of Syria, who have experienced years of war, displacement and hunger. Aid agencies warn the worst is yet to come.
There's a lack of everything, and of course it's cold. The winter is going on, so people need to be kept warm. We've set up small clinics just to look after people's injuries.
Syria's healthcare system was already struggling due to the war. The World Health Organization says at least 20 health facilities across the opposition-controlled northwest, including 4 hospitals, had sustained damage. And while emergency medical services have been overwhelmed with trauma patients, essential health services have been severely disrupted.
As you can see, part of the hospital was damaged. We lack doctors and medical supplies to deal with such a big emergency. The needs are enormous and we don't have enough resources.
Aid has started to flow in, but the needs are on an unprecedented scale. The United Nations is coordinating its disaster response from government-controlled areas, where it says it is working to gain approvals from Damascus for faster and more regular access to the northwest. But people there say it is too late. Countless lives, they say, have been lost because their appeals for help were ignored by the international community.
Nicaragua released more than 200 political prisoners this week, sending almost all of them to the U.S. Many were detained in 2018 in a wave of repression by President Daniel Ortega. Washington has welcomed their release and is promising to give them medical and legal support. CNN's Rafael Romo has more.
Well, you can imagine being in a cage for a year and 8 months. It's been a very traumatic situation, as you can imagine.
Juan Sebastián Chamorro is a free man for the first time in 20 months.
I was taken at night without a judiciary order. I was just taken by the police. They stormed into my house and they took me.
The Nicaraguan political leader is one of 222 former political prisoners, including one American citizen, who were suddenly taken out of jail Wednesday and Thursday and put on a plane bound for the United States.
The earthquake death toll has now surpassed 28,000 people across Turkey and Syria. In Syria alone, the total number of deaths stand at over 3,500, including over 2,000 in rebel-held areas in the northwest. A report now from Idlib province, where very little aid has come in.
We've been to a number of towns here in Idlib province in Syria, and we have seen dozens of buildings that have been flattened by the earthquake. Today we came across many people who are digging through the rubble with their bare hands, with chiseling tools, with makeshift tools, with whatever they can find really to try and locate their loved ones. People here don't have much. The majority of them are reliant on international aid, and these are people who have been displaced from their homes several times already over the past more than decade of this conflict in Syria. Very, very little aid has so far arrived in this part of the country. People are desperately waiting for the international community, they say, to remember Syria and the Syrians. We spoke to one woman today, and her message to the international community was she only wants one thing. She wants a tent. That's it, just a tent.
Well, coming up on Morning Barbados in just a little while, we'll meet a Bajan Afar who is in Toronto, Canada, who's already providing street food and Bajan vibes. We'll talk to her in just a little while. You may not know, but Katrina Khan Roberts knows a little bit more about marine biology, and she's written a book. She'll join us to talk a little bit about that. And when our relationship coach joins us this morning, we'll continue our really look at our conversation about co-parenting, and when that one parent has moved on to date another and the challenges therein. All of that and a whole lot more straight ahead on Morning Barbados. A break, and when we come back, much more on the Morning Report.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences.
Well, legislation pertaining to the care of the island's young people recently went through some changes, and certain elements which some felt unjust were removed, and one of them was wandering as an offence. Well, Operation Safe Space has been weighing in on this matter. Joining us now from Canada is Marcia Hines-Myrie, the co-founder of this advocacy organization. Good morning to you, ma'am.
Good morning, Pearson. How are you?
I'm well, thank you for asking. What are your general thoughts on the new legislation?
Well, I mean, you just started by talking about wandering, so let's start there. I think I went through the act last night, and I think what we've done is we've changed the punishment for wandering from a non-custodial punishment for the child to a punishment that now attracts a fine for the parent. The question has to be then, how does the proposed action take account of the causes of wandering in Barbados? So two of the main ones, as I understand them, would be mental health and wellness needs in children, as well as children trying to escape abuse. So if we are treating to it now with a fine, how does that fine, sit with the root causes of wandering? That's one of the things that I have been reflecting on as I look through the act.
And having reflected, what are your thoughts? What are your feelings at the moment?
I was hoping that you would move on to the next question. I am very cognizant and conscious that I always, happen to come over as the pessimist in these situations. I thought that the act would have been something different. I thought that we would have taken the opportunity to focus a lot more on rehabilitation. I thought that we would try to really focus. I mean, I heard Minister Lane talking about the fact that hurt people, or colonial past, and how that affects what is happening in the current day and that kind of thing. And given all of that structural analysis, I was looking for the act to be something different.
Okay. How do we tackle this from the parental level? What is your best advice?
Well, I think one of the things that we have to remember, or perhaps understand in Barbados, is that we never really had good old days in relation to family in Barbados. Family in Barbados has always been a very fraught site. It has always been a very complex and complicated site. And I think, like I said, Minister Lane is onto something when he talks about our colonial past in our experience of what family is. And so I think we should be focusing on social reengineering. I think we need to create family environments that work. And by that, I'm not just saying that we need nuclear families. We've never really had those, right? So that's not what I'm talking about. But we need to create family units where individuals can function to be able to take care of their needs and to be able to take care of the emotional well-being of the most vulnerable in those units. I don't think we have ever been very good at doing that. And so for me, it's about changing what we have to be able to construct what we want, and not necessarily just punish people who are not in a healthy space, but to understand some of the needs and some of the things that hinder them from being successful in family life.
We have to leave it right there, but thank you so much for joining us from Canada, Marcia Hines-Myrie, who is from Operation Safe Space. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The Barbados Bar Association wants swift and strong action to immediately address issues affecting the rights of individuals in police custody. President Kay Williams has made the call against what she says is the BBA receiving an alarming complaint of an incident on February the 4th at District E Police Station. It involved a suspected recording of a private conversation between an attorney at law and her client.
We understand the matter is being investigated and we look forward to having those results known. But in the interim, the Barbados Bar Association calls for swift and strong action to immediately address a number of issues affecting the rights of persons in police custody. A person in custody has a constitutional right to legal counsel, and that consultation is governed by principles of attorney-client privilege, and that needs to be preserved. So we would, of course, expect that meeting rooms in police stations should be fully private. And now we are asking that attorneys be given the opportunity to inspect the rooms prior to conducting an interview.
Let's jump forward to sports now. The Barbados team got hammered 5-0 by the USA in their CONCACAF Under-17 Championship game in Guatemala last night, in their opening game with striker Medina putting 3 past the Bajans.
There is a saying, you can find a
Weather today. At the moment, 24.4 degrees Celsius under cloudy conditions. The winds are coming from the east at 30 kilometers an hour. We should expect today a low tide at 21 minutes after 3. We have a high tide at 27 minutes after 8 this morning, with a return of the high tide at 9:45 tonight. Seas today are predicted to be moderate in open water with northerly swells ranging from 2 to 2.5 meters. In the forecast for Barbados today, a mix of sunshine and clouds with a few brief scattered light to moderate showers. In the forecast for Barbados tonight, cloudy with clear periods with a few brief scattered light to moderate showers. Looking now at some forecast conditions for some international cities. That's today's edition of the CBC Morning Report. I'm Pearson Bowen. Morning Barbados starts now.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Morning to you.
Well, how do you do, everybody? Good morning to you. Welcome to Monday. Today is Monday, the 13th of February. Now, if I say the 13th of February, you know what I'm talking about next, right? Valentine's Day tomorrow. And I hope you're getting yourselves all together indeed. Of course, so we expect tomorrow to be blanketed in red. And as you know, all month long, we've been encouraging you to go red for women. So tomorrow is a perfect day for you to take your photographs and for you to send them to us as well. So when you wear your red, whether it's your socks, your tie, your shirt, your pants, your skirt, your blouse, your whatever you do tomorrow, snap your photographs and you send it to us. Send it to us by email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. Will you do so? We do appreciate you doing so. Thank you very much in advance. Coming up today, I'll give you a chance to have some fun with us as we attempt to unscramble some more words this morning. Again, that's going to be happening. We meet this morning a Bajan living in Guyana in a very strange area. We want to hear why. Why are you there? What are you doing? And as missionaries, what are you achieving through your work? This morning, we'll meet the author of the book, Lose Weight, How to Lose Weight and How to Keep It Off. Now, I know a number of you are going to want to hear about that indeed, perhaps myself included. It should not be missed this morning when we have our conversation with our relationship coach. We want to look today at co-parenting. And how do you feel when the other partner has moved on, found themselves in a relationship? And how does that, what challenges would that bring to the co-parenting arrangement? We want to look at that when our relationship coach joins us this morning, so don't move indeed. You may not know about marine biology, or you may, but how do children interact with it? We want to talk today to the author of a new book who's written about it and a whole lot more. But I want to get started by this morning by meeting a Bajan afar in Canada, who is doing some amazing things over there. Let's say good morning to Aiko Rudder-Jones, who's the owner of Bim Street Eats in Toronto, as a matter of fact. Aiko, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for asking. What are you doing in Canada?
That's a good question. Well, I migrated here in 2013, quite a while ago. But
So-
you take.
Right. So you've migrated to Canada since 2013. But there must have been something that said to you, you know what, I'm uprooting myself from beautiful Barbados and I'm going to Canada. What was it?
Well, it was actually my mom. She migrated to Canada. I was living with my maternal grandparents. And she moved when I was in third form. And I spent my childhood growing up with, like I said, with my maternal grandparents. And coming down to, wait, let me correct myself. She left when I was in class 3.
Right.
And coming down to when I was in third form, it was time for me to come up here. So that's really how I ended up here.
So this is like
my family.
This is like 10 years you've been there now. So do you miss home? Do you miss Barbados?
Absolutely. I miss Barbados every day. I try to go back as much as I can, but given the pandemic, I haven't been back since 2020.
What do you miss most about Barbados?
I miss the people, I miss the atmosphere, the weather, and just the vibe. Find with like us Bajans, we have this kind of like vibe where it's just like, you know, go to work and then it's like you're liming and just the energy. I miss it so much. It's quite different up here.
Oh my gosh, my girl, you got me feeling as if I miss Barbados too sometimes. All right, so you're right, we have that kind of a vibe going on, but we also have the food going on because you're doing something which I think is so fascinating. You're taking our love of the foods we like to eat and you're sharing it with the Canadians there. So talk to me a little bit about your business.
Well, BIM Street Eats, it started during the pandemic. I went to George Brown, and during that time, I had the opportunity to work on a project, and I created BIM Street Eats. And funny enough, they say when you it's something about writing your dreams on paper. Yes. I didn't know it would manifest into all of this, right? Yes. But I had this idea and this dream, BIM Street Eats, and I wanted to share Bajan food with Canadians. I wanted to have a piece of my culture up here. I find when you go around the city, there's no Bajan restaurants. There's no really sign of us, and I wanted to do that. It kept like coming up in my head, but you could do this, and it just took having enough courage to go, and George Brown gave me that and enough knowledge. Yeah. I had the experience, but I needed a little bit more behind my back to make me feel comfortable. I think like George Brown gave me that.
And this George Brown is school.
Yes, George Brown College.
Right. So having done all of that now and you're up and running, talk to me a little bit about how people have been receiving your culinary skills.
Well, it's been amazing. The feedback and just the love and the support has been outstanding. It is much more than I expected it to be. I find even other Bajans, they're happy to have a piece of their culture and to try it. I find a lot of people say, thank you, I miss home, and this just made me feel like home. So just getting that feedback as well, it feels quite amazing.
I can well imagine. So what is it that you cook? What is it that you serve? Talk to me and tell me what it is that people find so amazing.
Well, okay, so I have one of my great sellers, Island Vibes Combo, which is macaroni pie, rice and peas, grilled potatoes, barbecue chicken, quarter barbecue chicken with some salad and coleslaw. I'll do pigtails, barbecue pigtails with some hand-cut fries, salad and coleslaw. As you see there on the picture, that's macaroni pie and wings. Yes. Just my take on Bajan food while being creative, because that's a big part of it for me too, to express myself and be creative is important to me.
That looks so delicious, I'm telling you. That is so fantastic what you've been able to do. And so people are really pandering, and there's pudding and sauce as well. Of course.
Absolutely. Yes, pudding and sauce every Saturday.
Every Saturday, Bajan lemonade. Oh my goodness! So you've really brought home back to Toronto, Canada, indeed. And so, do you find your clientele is generally Barbadians, or are they Caribbean people, or just basic Canadian?
Yeah, it's a mixture of both. Both Bajans, lots of Bajans, and also Canadians as well. I have the opportunity to. I had the opportunity to have my business on this app called Cooking, which is quite a new app, and is based on chefs and home cooks operating out of their home. So on this app, it allows me to have the opportunity to spread my business to Canadians.
Yeah, that is good. So you're getting the word out. Now I'm told too there's some very famous people who you've also been a part of catering for. You've catered for Michelle Obama, am I right?
Pardon me?
Have you also helped in catering for and organizing for Michelle Obama?
Yes, I have.
Tell me a little bit about that. What was that experience like?
Well, to be honest, I was in the kitchen most of the time, all of the time, but
Mhm.
it was quite an experience, I should say. Just the level of cooking, the atmosphere, everything that I saw, it was amazing. It was amazing. That's what I
Wow.
should say, to be honest.
And then the
It really taught me a lot. And you know, when you're having these experiences, you don't really know that later on in life you're gonna exercise them, you know.
Mhm.
But I found that everything that I've learned in my early years of my journey is now starting to come into play and for me to use.
So who taught you in your early years of your journey as you've expressed it? Who are some of those people who influenced you?
Well, I gained a lot of all of my experience from working in the kitchen in my earlier years. I would say got my first job when I was 15, and I was able to land this gig as a line cook. So it was big for me because it wasn't what I was accustomed to. I'm accustomed to prep, but I was able to have this opportunity. And my mentor was this chef called Jeremy. And when I went for the interview, he was like, why do you want this job? And I was like, well, I just love cooking. I would like to be a chef. I would like to learn as much as possible. And if given the opportunity, I believe I'll be a great fit, you know? He said, okay, I'll call you back. I have a few other interviews, you know. By the end of the week, he shot me an email and he was like, well, would you like to come in and continue? And I was like, absolutely. So when I came in, he was, well, Aiko, you were the only one that showed up on time and showed so much interest. So I'm going to mentor you. And he became my first mentor. He was a great chef. And he really took me under his wing. And my love for cooking grew from that day.
Wow.
And it just continued. He was one of them. And I have quite a few others. Chef Jason Innes, he's actually a Bajan as well. I met him at George Brown College and I cater with him sometimes, and he's also been a mentor to me and an inspiration.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's been a very interesting journey. Now, I'm told too that one of the most important people who you've had to cater for has been the President of Barbados, Her Excellency Dame Sandra Mason. What was that like?
Yeah. That was an amazing experience.
Take your time, take your time.
Because it was unexpected, but it was amazing. The Consulate General reached out to me. I had the opportunity to cater for them for the flag raising back in November. And through that, she reached out to me and she was like, Aiko, I need a favor. I was like, oh Lord, no. And she was like, well, so the person that usually caters this event for me isn't feeling quite well. And I was wondering if you would be able to just do a little 50 people event for me. And I was like, absolutely. She didn't tell me at the time who I was catering for, you know?
Yes.
So I was like, no problem. I could do some order of cheese board, you know? We were just discussing what we wanted. So I was like, absolutely, I would love to do that. And then she called me back. She was like, oh, also, did I tell you that you is the President of Barbados? I was like, what? She just said, like, you know, I'm sure she's acquainted with the President in a different way. But for me, I was like, oh, my goodness. You know, I was excited and just really honored to be able to have that opportunity.
Oh my goodness, what an opportunity you've had indeed. So when you stop to reflect on your life for just a little while, are you happy with the place you are now and the things that you've been able to achieve?
Yes, I am happy. I've came a long way. It hasn't been an easy journey, but I'm proud of myself.
And a good old Barbados. So if you were to come home right now and land at Grantley Adams International Airport. Aiko, tell me, where would the first place, what would it be, the first place you'd like to go? Tell me.
Well, I would actually go home first to see my grandmother. I would go
Yes.
home. That's what I would do first, say hi to all my family, and then from there I would go to the beach. I would get some Banks beer, and I would spend time on the beach.
Love
Get
it.
some beers on the beach.
So I'm sure your grandmothers and your family are probably up watching at the moment. Who are your family, where they're from?
My family is the Rudders. My grandmother, Veronica Rudder, my grandfather, Antonio Rudder, my mother, Claire Rudder. I have a twin sister, Maya Rudder Jones. And yeah, that's my family.
There you go. That's your peeps, indeed. You know,
where they're from, one state.
oh, one state area. Right there in St. Michael, indeed. All right. So, you know, our people on social media are commenting about what you've been able to, we've been showing them about what you've been able to achieve so far. And you're getting real support from Barbadians who are watching all over the world. Some who are not just in Barbados, but who are also commenting from overseas as well. We are so immensely proud of you, Aiko. Aiko Rudder Jones, a chef. She runs BIM Street Eats. BIM Street Eats in Toronto, Canada. Look out for her. Kelvin Rock continues, well done, young lady. Keep the flag flying. And all of us here, well done indeed. We want to wish you the very best with your future endeavors. And Aiko, good to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Morning Barbados.
It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome indeed. Her name, don't ever forget it, Aiko Rudder Jones. She's the owner of BIM Street Eats in Toronto, Canada. So I guess if you're going up soon, or if you're there at the moment, look for her. She already does some very delicious Bajan delicacies and foods and all those. Did you see the sweet bread? Did you guys see that? Did you see the yellow breadfruit? The yellow, what do you call it? The yellow bowl? I think it is. She does great work with salt fish and also, too much food in the morning to talk about, Pearson. It looks delicious. It sounds delicious. There it is. You can get a box of a mixed whole set of things, all from BIM Street Eats in Toronto, Canada. Look at that salt fish and gravy on that cuckoo. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. Stop it. Stop showing me those pictures right now. All of those wings and everything else. Macaroni pie, fried chicken, barbecue chicken. Stop! This is fantastic, but that is being done by a Barbadian. BIM Street Eats in Toronto. We're going to take a break right here, and we're coming back in just a moment.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Affair segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb, and together we will travel the world.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented,
We're 10 and a half to go to 7 o'clock now. You know, they say Katrina can. Katrina Can Roberts certainly can. And because she can, she has written a book called Matrina Marine Minded, the Mini Marine Biologist Guidebook. She joins us now. Good morning to you, Katrina Can Roberts.
Good morning, Pearson, and good morning, Barbados.
Thank you so much for joining us. It is an honor to have you with us. And because a lot of us, we have the sea all around us, but we don't know, have a clue what's within the sea. So talk to me a little bit about your rationale for writing this book.
So basically, just like you said, we are surrounded by the oceans here in the Caribbean. So I'm actually calling in from Trinidad and Tobago, but I know that Barbados is a coral atoll island, right?
Yes.
Each of us have our own unique flavors in our different locations in the Caribbean. And I always loved The Little Mermaid. I was obsessed with mermaids as a child. I loved swimming. I was in the water more than I was out. And I grew up loving the ocean so much that I wanted to learn about it. And I knew that marine biology and studying the environment, that was the way that I was going to get to it. So I just thought every other little child out there needs to know that the ocean is basically what is sustaining life on our islands.
You know, I'll tell you, I cannot swim. I've never looked beneath the surface of the water. I have no clue what is other than what's shown to me on via television. So talk to me a little bit about our marine biology and why it's so critical, even at a very young age, that we have an appreciation for it and its value to the sustaining of life on land.
Definitely. So exactly, a lot of Caribbean people don't know how to swim, which is staggering to me. So my parents, I was very, very fortunate. They knew that I loved water and I was always attracted to the water, so they knew I had to learn how to swim.
Yes.
So that's me in my, so my nickname given to me actually by my cousin Nadia Ali was Mertrina, and that's where the name came up with for this character, Mertrina. So that was me actually in Tobago. And the thing is, the ocean sustains life, like you said, because actually most of the oxygen that is produced for the atmosphere comes from the ocean, from the algae that lives on the surface, phytoplankton, the macroalgae as well, from mangroves, from wetlands. And it's amazing when you think about the impact that humans are having on our environment and on our marine ecosystem without realizing it. So it's something I wanted to connect people to, especially children.
And so this book is written in a language that children would understand. And what ages do you think you're targeting here with the book?
So actually, I have 3 books now. So the first book that I wrote, I realized that it was a little too scientific for a certain age group. So it's more for ages 8 and up.
Yes.
And then I decided I was going to break it down further so that this one that just came out is the same concepts, but just for like a toddler can understand it. So it's about finding the correct language to use for each age group, because each of them are going to develop more understanding as they get older. It's kind of like you're going from Form 5 to Form 6, and it's a huge jump in learning.
Yes.
It's like you have to make sure that it's a gradual, understanding as you get older, and connection as well. It's not only about the technical, but it's about actually understanding and conceptualizing what it is you're reading.
It sounds as if it's the kind of book that gives us an appreciation for what we encounter when we get to the sand to start with, because oftentimes, we'd walk the sand, we'll see shells, where did that come from? Or we'd see some piece of something growing, where did that come from? And then we go a little bit more tempted to head into the water to see where it all comes from. So it gives us an opportunity to be able to read, and then we go explore. Is that the intention here with the book?
It's more about ocean literacy. So it's actually, it's about everything to do with the ocean, starting from water and the water cycle, and how, all the oceans of the world are connected. So yes, it is that we in the Caribbean have specific vulnerabilities, but with this book, I wanted it to be as general as possible. So anyone from that's me and all 6 of my books. So I'm actually a poet as well. So I have 3 poetry books and then 3 Mertrina books.
Yes.
So, it's all about ocean literacy in different formats. So, whoever is more receptive to rhyming words will have a book for that. If there's someone who's a little bit older and wants the technical background, there's a book for that. So I'm trying my best to create all of these different range of books that are going to, suit any style, so that the core message that the ocean is important and it requires our protection, that it will reach those ears.
All right, so it's marine literacy. And here it is now, you just said all the oceans are connected. That's a little bit of information for us. If you didn't know all 5 oceans are connected, what else do we not know that the book brings out?
There's so much of the ocean that is actually not discovered yet. So we know more about the surface of Mars than we do about our own oceans, especially in the Caribbean region, because we don't have the facilities. I mean, they say we don't have the technical capabilities, although we have some of the brightest minds in the world, from Barbados, from Jamaica. I mean, you all have the best university programs for marine and ocean education, and we just don't have the funding to actually go down there and research what is down there. So I'm very happy, like one of my professors and her then colleague, so that's Professor Boben from the University of the West Indies in St. Augustine and Dr. Diva Amon. So they actually had the opportunity to go down into Trinidad and Tobago's deep sea, and they found some amazing things. There were so many undiscovered species that they're still looking at data like many years later. I think it's about 5 years later now. They're still trying to process all the data that was collected on that deep sea dive. So that is something that is very interesting. We are not researching and doing the baseline studies in our own zones, and this is our backyard, this is our neighborhood. So we really do need to up our our schools, and we have to get support to be able to do that kind of research.
You're quite right. When we one stop to think about it, when we think of the sea, we just think of fish, all sorts of fish. But there's plant life under there as well, the surface of the water. And so this research that you just spoke of exposes all of that, the different varieties that exist under there, how alive they truly are. And when you stop to think of coral to begin with, coral, and you're thinking, oh, that's some piece of rock somehow, but it's more than just a piece of rock. And so your book helps to help the child to understand better all of that happens beneath the surface of the water.
Yes, definitely. Because like I said, Caribbean people in general are not as connected to the ocean as we should be. So if you look, for example, at the Pacific Islands, they have a unique connection to their nature. But because, again, as we spoke about earlier with the Honorable Minister and Dr. Heinz Myrie, we have colonial history that has disconnected us from this land and this ocean that we are occupying here in the Caribbean. So that is something that we have to deal with. And so I feel like ocean literacy is something that is so important to reconnect that child with nature, with the ocean, not just going to the beach and seeing a shell on the sand and saying, okay, and then going back home to the normal, daily life. I know for example, in Trinidad and Tobago, it's so different to Barbados because we have absolutely no care for water here, for energy, for anything like that, because we have it cheaply here, right? And I grew up knowing that this is not sustainable. So I know for a fact that I want to change the minds of these smaller children. And I grew up in a time where it's like, I don't know if you guys had these same TV shows, but Captain Planet and the Nyam Nyams, they used to show this on TV, and it was basically about teaching children that we are connected so closely to our environment. Everything we eat, we breathe, we drink, everything we experience comes from our environment. And right now, I'm actually working with the Caribbean Climate Network, and we are volunteers throughout the entire Caribbean talking about climate change and adapting to climate change, because that is our biggest threat coming up in the next few years.
Indeed, so our actions on land affect our actions at sea and vice versa as well. And so we need to be far more literate in what we do and what exists so that we can coexist better indeed, better managers of the space in which we live. And so that's what your book attempts to do for children and adults as well, because the exposure to the information by the children will be exposed to us as the adults as well. So we need to know better what it is that we're talking about. And this book, Matrina Marine Minded, the mini marine biologist guide. But listen, there's such an alliteration and all of that, but we got it right. And so for those who want to get copies of the book right now, where can they do so that we go to the beach now far more empowered, knowing what's there?
Thank you so much. So I actually self-published these books on Amazon. So that's a whole other conversation about becoming an author and fulfilling that dream. That could be another day. But right now in Barbados, you can get them on Amazon if it is that you have shipping to your country. But I am really hoping that bookstores over there will allow me to send my book across and stock it for you guys to be able to enjoy as well.
There you go, folks. We put all the information on the screen so you can see it for yourself. You can go to Amazon to get your copy as well. And let the children read. Let the children explore. Let the children learn. Let the children become better stewards of the space in which we exist, indeed. And so that's what Katrina can, and that's what Katrina has done. Katrina Can Roberts, thank you so very much indeed for joining us this morning from Trinidad and Tobago. You're welcome.
Day.
Likewise to you. Thank you very much indeed. All right. Katrina Can Roberts is her name. She's the author of the book. It's available on Amazon. All right. As we head to the break, let's just share with you all month long in the month of February. We've been talking a lot about who we are as a people, as black people, and we're celebrating the excellence of black people all over the world who've been doing through the centuries some amazing feats. And so as we continue to recognize them, we want this morning to recognize a lady by the name of Marion Croak. Have you ever heard of her? Who is Marion Croak? You asked the question? I do too. And so I want to share with you now about Marion Croak. If we can just share with you who, there she is. Marion Croak is the Vice President of Engineering at Google. She was inducted into the Women in Technology International Hall of Fame in 2013. Just last year, she was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame for her patent regarding voice over internet protocol technology. Her invention allows all of us to make calls over the internet rather than using traditional phones. Her work has furthered the capability of audio and video conferencing, making it a practical reality in today's world. So because of her, we just did what we just did, connecting with Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you, Marion Croak. Now we know it's to you we say thanks. Marion Croak, our one who we're celebrating today in Black History Month, indeed. Many more to share with you throughout the month of February. But don't forget, tomorrow's Valentine's Day. We have something very special. Very special planned for you tomorrow. You want to wake up early enough to catch it. And tomorrow is also the day in which a number of you are going to be wearing your red and your white. And because tomorrow you're going to be wearing lots of red, we ask you to take your pictures. Take your pictures. We'll go red for women. Take your pictures. You can tag HSF Barbados at HSF Barbados, but send your photographs here to us at morninbarbados@cbc.bb. We want to share it with the rest of the world as we too here go red for women. Let's do this together. Let's show our love for our heart tomorrow. We're taking a break here. We're coming back in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of your creativity. If you are an entrepreneur, artist, baker, designer, author, or have done anything you think should be highlighted, email us at morninbarbados@cbc.bb. Let us show the world our exceptional Bajan youth.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share? Then Mornin Barbados will...
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
All right, 3.5 minutes after the hour of 7 o'clock. Don't forget to join us at 12 noon for News Day here on TV8. Let's turn our attention now to a chapter that you don't want to miss, I'm sure, because the book is entitled Lose Weight and Keep It Off for Good. How do you do that? Let's say good morning and howdy do to Marva Riley, who is a registered nurse. Marva, good morning to you.
Good morning, Pearson. Good morning, Pearson. Good morning, Barbados.
Welcome,
Good morning,
indeed. Your energy is so infectious. Thank you so much for all of that. So bright and early in the morning, indeed. But you know, we want to know, how do you do that? How do you lose weight and keep it off for good? Where do we start?
In the mind.
Really? And not in the gut?
Yes. In the mind.
In the mind. Talk me through it.
Okay, well, all change begins in the mind. I think many of us are familiar with that Bible scripture that says, "Be ye transformed by the
Yes.
renewing of your
Of your
mind."
mind. Yes.
Well, that's where every change begins, including losing the weight and keeping it off for good.
So it's how I think. And therefore, how I think causes me to make different choices about what I do, how I consume, and the like. And so we start with a decision that I want to change, I want to lose weight, and therefore I'm committed in my mind to following what I need to do to lose the weight, one, and then committed in my mind to keeping it off. That's what you're saying. We start there.
Exactly, because so many folks make a decision on the 2nd of January.
Yes.
I want to lose weight, but I really have not put any thought into it. And in my book, I suggested that maybe January 2nd is not the time to go on a weight loss journey. Maybe you need to take January, maybe even February, to think long and hard about your why. Why do you want to lose weight and keep it off for good? What can I do to lose weight and keep it off for good? And what am I willing to commit to long term to keep that weight off for good? But we've got to begin here, because if we're not ready mentally for the change, come the end of February, we're just
Yes.
gonna
Give up.
quit, because the research shows that before the end of February, more than 33% of those who ventured on a weight loss journey give up, and by the end of March, 80% quit. So we've got to begin.
Because it seems so difficult to do. That's why we give up. And I'm saying we because I'm also guilty of the same thing. So how do we make it easy to stay committed in here to the game plan?
I don't think it's ever easy. It gets easier. Like every change, really. I mean, the thing is that I say to folks, okay, when my son and my daughter were in school, I said, listen, I want A's. And they knew that I wanted A's. So they would work hard, they would practice, and they would practice. They didn't begin by getting A's. So my son, I remember he used to get D's, and then it came up to C's, and it came up to B's, and it came up to A's. It took practice. When we practice, it becomes a habit. And when it becomes a habit, it gets a lot easier. But I can't say that living the healthy lifestyle is necessarily easy, because we're bombarded with commercials from the fast food places.
Yes.
Everywhere there's junk food to tempt us. So we've got to have that self-discipline, that self-control, that habit, and that takes practice. Practice becomes progress.
Yes.
And that's where we have to begin.
Practice becomes progress. I like that phrase. I'll not forget it indeed. But you know, you yourself, you are living exactly what you're preaching here in the book. How to lose weight and keep it off for good. And so from this, what is it? The question is, what is it that caused you to start this in the first place?
Well, 22 years ago, at the tender age of 38, I was diagnosed with a life-threatening heart disease called cardiomyopathy. And it was about that time that I started experiencing depression, anxiety, sleep issues, breathing issues, H. pylori, gastric reflux. I mean, all my body systems were just breaking down, because everything is interconnected. My heart wasn't working well, so everything was messed up. And when I did the research, I read a lot of testimonials and books and listened on YouTube, etc., of people who healed themselves and reversed all kind of health issues using a holistic approach. I was a little bit overweight. I wasn't obese, but I was a little bit overweight. And I remember when I did a procedure on my heart, and my physician said, you need to start eating healthy, you need to exercise, you need to get good sleep, you need to cut back on coffee and tea, you need to get sunlight, you need to. And I was so desperate to feel better that I embraced a holistic lifestyle, and I have never turned back. I'm almost 61, at my ideal weight. and I have absolutely no health issues. So I know it works.
Wow, this is fantastic indeed. But you had a motivating factor. You had, and you're right, because and it's so critical for us to have this discussion at this time, because in this month of February, that's what we're talking about, cardiovascular disease, and how women in particular are finding themselves more and more a statistic of cardiovascular disease. But you've had your experience at the age of 38, and it has to have been, at that very young and tender age, quite startling to have been diagnosed as, you know, having that condition. And here it is now, 20-something years later, you're still living and you're doing very, very well.
Yes, that's my why. Everybody has to have a why. Some folks' why is that I want to be around healthy and strong for my children, my grandchildren, my spouse, my business, whatever. You've got to have a why. Why do you want to lose weight and keep it off for good? Why do you want to reverse health issues? What is your why? My why is that, my why then was life. I wanted to live for my children, my husband. My why now is that I want to age gracefully. I don't want to be riddled with arthritis. I want to look young. I want to feel young. And yesterday I was listening to a physician who is 99 years old with no health issues.
Wow.
And when asked, what are your secret? He said, you got to learn to keep the weight off. And because overweight and obesity is linked to cardiac problems, and
Yes.
cardiac disease is a #1 cause of premature death and premature aging and disability in the world and in the United States.
You talked about approaching it from a holistic approach, where you took a holistic approach. In taking that holistic approach, what are you doing? What have you done differently? What should we ourselves be considering to do differently?
Well, the holistic approach, Pearson, includes the body, the mind, and the spirit, because everything is interconnected. And that's where mindset matters. Okay, things like positive motivational talks to yourself, not telling yourself, I can't lose weight, it's hard to lose weight. You say, I want to lose weight and I can lose weight, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to lose the weight. It's a mindset.
Yes.
Prayer and meditation can help you to get your mind in order so you prepare your body to do the work. And then you got to eat healthy, and you got to exercise, and you got to get adequate sleep. So that's a holistic approach, including body, mind, and spirit. If you're there stressed out, for example, but you're eating healthy and you're exercising, you're not going to do very well.
Ooh.
You've got to address the stress, because excess stress leads us to stress eating, and we grab the donut or the 10 cup of coffee with 10 packs of sugar. You've got to address it in a holistic way in order to succeed.
I could hear some saying, I hear you, lady. I hear you, lady. You know, but life is so stressful in itself. You know, there's so many pressures. But you're quite right. It's the balance of all of it. It's the true balance of all of it that really makes the big difference. But approaching the mind is really the great start. But your spirituality is also equally important. And that's what scares a lot of people. You know, yes, we can adjust our diet. Yes, I can tell myself all sorts of wonderful things. But you're asking me for now to stop and take for a moment and imagine there's a God somewhere. But that's not what you're asking them to do, are you? When you're talking about the mind and the spirit.
Well, the whether we call that being God or whatever name we give that being, there is a supreme being, the universe, okay? And we have to connect with that. We have to connect with nature, connect with the animals, connect with that inner being, that being within us. Once you connect with that inner being within us, you can draw on that strength from that source. Because in our own strength, we can't do a whole lot. I'm not talking about religion here. It's that inner strength that we can tap into within us. And that's the only way that we're going to be able to succeed at anything, whether it's our business, whether it's weight loss, whether it's our health, whether it's our career, whatever it is what we want to succeed at, we've got to tap into that inner being to draw on that strength.
You know, folks, a lot of this is in the book, Lose Weight and Keep It Off for Good. And this is the book written by Marva Riley. She's a registered nurse. Now, also in the book, is the book a practical day-by-day, step-by-step guide, or is it just your journey, your life?
It's a practical day-by-day guide that you can have at your bedside, on your kitchen table, wherever you are, at your desk, that you can just whip out, and it'll give you many steps to help you, practical and doable steps. It's not a complex read at all. It's very easy, very simple, very doable. And these are the steps that work for me. I have two persons that co-authored with me, my sister and my very good friend. They wrote the first 2 chapters, and in that, they gave their testimonials of being severely obese. And implementing these simple steps like intermittent fasting, like eating more vegetables, like walking, like decreasing the stress level, like drinking more water as opposed to sodas, etc. And they have literally lost half of their body weight by implementing these simple, doable steps. So no, it's not a complex read at all. It's very easy. A seventh grader can read it, understand, apply, and get results.
So if you want results, folks, that's the book to read indeed. How to Lose Weight and Keep It Off. Many of us feel the way we do, and many of us don't like the way we feel or even look sometimes, and that's because of the overweight. Many of us have challenges health-wise because of the overweight. So how do we lose weight and keep it off for good? The book is one way to start indeed, and so because it's a practical guide, a practical every minute of everyday reminder of the things that we can do to keep it off for good, it's a good read and a good reason to have it indeed. Marva Riley, I want to thank you so much. You're looking ever so young. I want to look like you when I'm your age, almost there, but hey, this is fantastic indeed. And that's the whole thing. It's because we now have glowing examples of what's possible through you, and so we want to encourage more people to be like you indeed. And so we can do so by picking up the book, How to Lose Weight and Keep It Off for Good by Marva Riley. It's available online, correct?
Oh yes, my book is, I've written 3 health and wellness books. They're all available on Amazon, Walmart, Target, and also on my website, rnmarvariley.com.
There it is. Thank you so much again for joining us. I want to wish you all the best. Have yourself a great day, okay?
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me, Pearson.
You're very welcome indeed. Marva Riley, registered nurse and the author of the book, How to Lose Weight and Keep It Off for Good. Doesn't that feel good to know? Now we know what we can do. We're taking a break right here. When we come back, Dr. Denise Charles will be joining us. I know you're looking forward to this, as am I. Stay with us.
Because you love English Premier League, MCTV has got it back. Now you can watch all the games of the English Premier League, plus UEFA and NFL on MCTV. Current customers can upgrade to Max Pack Extra at just $23. Call MCTV today at 228-6288 to upgrade, or come in and sign up for our new service. Football fans, let MCTV get you back in the game.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the journey.
Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
19 minutes now after 7 o'clock. So many of you are saying, you know, this is one of the sweetest segments of Morning Barbados, boy, when Dr. Denise Charles is on. And so Dr. Denise Charles, our relationship coach, is on. Dr. Denise Charles, good morning to you.
Good morning, Pearson. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks.
You know, I opened my paper this morning and there you were. It's like everywhere.
I was.
Yes. Okay,
let me
get
get away from me, Pearson.
You can't get away, just can't get away indeed. But that's not a bad thing. I'm not running from you. That's not a bad thing at all. And so today I want to look at the whole question of, cohabitating, co-parenting, not cohabitating, co-parenting, and when one of those partners have moved on to date someone else. And how do you now feel knowing that your child or children are being parented also by this other person? That, for a lot of people, triggers some really horrible reactions. Where do we start to unravel all of this?
Well, Pearson, I think when it comes to co-parenting, what is very important is that the parents recognize that whatever actions they're going to take, whatever they're going to do, it must be in the best interest of the child. You, as a parent, you have a child, and that child is your primary responsibility. All right. So whether or not you move on into another relationship, that child must always remain your primary responsibility and making decisions that would be in the best interest of that child. So I can understand if one partner moves on and they're now involved with someone else and there's another figure in the picture raising that child, how that might make the other partner feel. Depends on your level of security. I think if you're a secure individual, you have been a good parent. You have a good relationship with your child. You are well adjusted as an adult. There really should be no major issues. You may feel a bit off at the beginning because you're human and there's now another adult involved in your child's life. And obviously, you're going to want that adult who is having some sort of access to your child is perhaps raising your child or influencing your child in a positive way. But, I think that once you have done your job and you continue to do your job as a good parent, you really don't have very much to worry about. The problem comes, however, if that new parent is influencing your child in a negative way, or is introducing your child to values that you don't hold dear or that you don't espouse. I think that is where it can become ticklish, and that's where you can begin to feel maybe apprehensive and anxious about this individual who's now influencing your child. You may even feel jealous. You may feel jealous if the child develops a good relationship with this other parent. You may feel jealous of the new relationship between your previous partner and this new partner, that he has or she has. So I think you have to manage those emotions because you don't want any negative energy moving over onto the child and causing the child to feel that he or she is somehow at fault with respect to the new tension that has been introduced into this extended family.
So how on heaven's earth do you do that though, Denise? Because you're right, you're going to feel a way to know that I've just released my child into the care of the mother or the father, and this other partner is there. Now talking to my child and having a relationship, a moment, and I'm wondering what's going on here. It's difficult. It's really, really difficult to examine.
And that's why I spoke of the need for the parent to always have a good relationship with the child. Now, if you have an issue with your child and you don't have a good relationship, I can see a problem. So I think when it comes to articulating our feelings, I think that we are always required to be honest. We always have to unpack the emotions that we are going through in any given moment. Now, not everybody's good at this. If it isn't something that you have trained yourself to do or that you're accustomed to doing, you're not one who normally reflects, then this may be a bit difficult for you to handle because sometimes people are angry and they don't know why they're angry. People are anxious and they don't know where their anxiety is coming from because they're just not in touch with themselves or they're not in touch with their own emotions. But if you begin to feel strange or you begin to feel anxious, you begin to feel tense at the thought of your child being raised with someone else, I think you need to step back, take some time to look inward, reflect. Why do I feel this way? Is it that I think this person is influencing my child in a bad way or can potentially influence my child in a bad way? Or do I feel that I'm somehow losing my child? Yes. I don't know if everybody is going to be as honest as that, but it really requires that sort of self-examination and reflection and perhaps speaking to someone about it. But I think even before you begin to speak to someone about it, you need to speak to your co-parent. Okay, you need to speak to your partner and let him or her know how you feel. Now, if y'all have ended in a bad way, your relationship is kind of adversarial, you don't speak properly, then that is going to also spell danger for the child, because whether or not someone else is involved, whether or not that person has moved on, if you end your relationship in a bad way, and you don't seek to repair it for the sake of the child, then that child is in some sort of emotional jeopardy, because children are extremely sensitive. And sometimes parents don't give them the kind of credit that we need to give them. And sometimes we think a child, oh, she's young, he's young, they don't know what's going on.
Yes.
But believe you me, children know. They know. They may not be able to articulate everything. They may not talk to you about it. When I think of my own childhood, I didn't talk to my parents about a lot, but I observed a lot, and I internalized a lot. And a lot of the emotions that I experienced went with me right into my adulthood. So I'm thinking that it's very, very important for parents to allow their children the space to talk. And if you are feeling anxious about the new relationship, the new parent, as it were, if we want to call it that, that person that, the child may also be feeling some level of anxiety. The child may not be as well adjusted as he or she appears to be. Children often do as they're told, especially within the context of our society and how we raise our children. And we don't always raise our children to articulate their fears, to articulate their sense of anxiety or anything like that. So very often children feel these emotions, but nobody knows.
So the child comes back from a weekend away with whomever, and the child wants to talk. I don't want to hear about the other partner. I don't want to hear about the other partner. So what do you say to the child? How do you stiffen yourself to the point where, you know what, for the sake of the child, you talk? But I really, truly don't want to hear.
I think, now, depending on the age of the child, you have to manage this very carefully. If it is a young child, a young child is not going to understand all of the nuances of a breakup and all the nuances of a relationship that has gone sour. And I think you have to allow the younger child to speak. Allow that child to just be a child. And if the child rattles off about some activity that he or she did over the weekend, they went out somewhere to eat, they went somewhere and had fun, a party or something like that, you just need to let the child talk, listen, ask questions, and in terms of and be the adult.
Yes.
In terms of your being the adult in this space and not being a child yourself, you can learn and understand what is happening in this new home environment that your child has been exposed to. Now, the older the child is, you can perhaps be honest, and this depends on the type of relationship you have with your child. There are some parents who will speak to their older children. For example, the child may be 12, 13, 14, about a breakup. They will let the child know how they feel. I really don't like the fact that Daddy and I broke up, or Mommy and I broke up. Things are a bit tense between the two of us, but we're trying to make things work. Sometimes you may see us argue, or you may feel a little bit of tension between us, but it has nothing to do with you. And you assure the child that he or she is loved and accepted despite that breakup. But if you don't talk to your child, believe you me, children are very good at owning their parents' breakups. They're very good at feeling that they're somehow responsible. And if they sense ongoing tension in the relationship, they may think, well, it's because of me. I'm the person who's causing them to always fight or to always disagree. So it's important to have that conversation when your child is older, even as old as 8 or 9, because our children are exposed to a lot on social media and on television and so on, and they're not innocent in the sense, if you understand what I'm meaning when I'm saying the word innocent. They understand a lot about the world, and we need to have those conversations. When I was a child, I wish someone had conversations with me, because certainly I owned a lot of the things that I saw and internalize a lot of my mother's pain. So it is important for us to have these kinds of conversations so our children are on a better emotional plane, as it were, and we don't burden them with the things that we are experiencing and going through as parents. We have to adult. We have to be the adults in this setting.
Should we do the examination? You come home, where did you all go? What did you do? Who is this? Tell me a little bit about the house. Let me look into your bag. Let me see what you did. Or should we do that? And a lot of times people do so because they're hoping to catch something. What does that do to that child and the relationship with the co-parent?
I think you can do it wisely. It doesn't have to be obvious, okay? If you've been a good parent, you would know that from time to time, depending on the ages of your children, you might search your children's bags from time to time. I don't know how many parents do that. You know, you'd search your child's bag when that child comes home from school. It's not that you don't trust your child, but you know that children are children. And children will be children. Even though you raise your children with particular values, you know, you still know that they're going into spaces where they could be influenced negatively by other people, whether their own peers or other people. So I think, you know, you can go about surreptitiously searching the bag, and you can ask some questions wisely. It does not have to be obvious. You know, you don't have to drill down and ask 20 questions one after the next, as if the child is on some type of oral exam. You know, you go about and you do it in a very relational way. And really, what should be motivating you to do this is the best interest of the child. You're not trying to get back at this man or get back at this woman. Because if you're operating out of that type of bitterness and you're operating out of that type of anger, what that is saying is that you really haven't resolved the issue of this breakup. And if you haven't resolved the issue of the breakup, you are actually in a very unhealthy space. And being in that unhealthy space will not only impact the relationship you're having with your child, it will impact your whole life. It will impact your whole life. It will impact your potential relationships to come in the future if you don't settle and bring some level of peace to the breakup. So it's very important. But I know that sometimes these things take time, and depending on what happened when the relationship broke up, you know, whether you were actually married and it is a divorce, or even if you were together for a very, very long time, you know, and you separated after a long connection and you have more than one child, or even if you only have one child, you know, the situations can vary from person to person and from relationship to relationship. But it's very important to deal with any lingering issues that you may have. Take some time to step back, do some internal reflection and introspection, and seek to understand where you are at emotionally. Be honest with yourself. If you feel you haven't really let go of this man or you haven't really let go of this woman, do what you need to do in your mind. It may not happen overnight, especially if you were deeply tied to this person. You really love the person, but it just didn't work out. You know, these are things that you have to work through so that you can bring closure. Because what ongoing emotional turmoil in your mind could suggest is that you haven't really brought closure to the relationship, even though it's ended.
It's hard, though, for a man to know that, you know, for the majority of the child's week, for instance, it's in the care, his son is in the care of another man. And he only gets the child on 2 days of a weekend. Out of 7 days in a week, he only sees the child for 2 days. But for the 5 days, the child is living under the roof with another man who is not its father. What advice would you give to the man in this situation where that occurs?
I would say, learn to maximize the time you will have with your child. I know we say we think a lot in terms of quantity when it comes to relationships, but it is also about quality. And I know that you may want to know you have more time with your child, and if you do want to have more time, you could ask the mother to give you more time. I don't know what type of relationship the two of you may have within the context of our particular scenario. But I think it is important. The most important thing in my mind, and how I would advise a father in that scenario, is to maximize the time you do have with your child. And spending quality time with your child, taking the child out or having the child in your home is one thing. But maintaining a relationship through phone calls, through WhatsApp messaging, you know, even doing video calls, being in that child's life, having a sustained interest in the child's life is, to me, what is most critical. You're not just spending time with that child on those 2 days and that's the end of it. You know, you maintain an interest. You check in during the week, even when the child is not with you physically. You can check in with your child. It's your child. You know, now obviously if the mother is not giving you access to the child via the phone or via social media, etc., then there are implications that there are more serious challenges that you may need to look at in another way, you know, where you might need to bring in legal counsel or something, depending on what type of arrangement that you have, you know. But I would say from the outset, it is important to look at the quality of the relationship in the long term and how you plan to maintain that quality relationship outside the context of those 1 or 2 or 3 days that you may have to actually have physical access to the child.
Girl, this is so much to unpack indeed, because it's happening so much more often, more readily now across the island,
yes.
and our social media commenters are really commenting on all of this, and they're really active this morning and talking about all of this. And you're quite right. If we keep the child at the center of why we're doing what we're doing, and we put aside our emotions, how we feel one for the other, for the sake of the child, so much more can be achieved. I love
that's
to watch
really important.
Me too. I love to watch Judge Judy. She puts it squarely. Both of you created this child. Both of you have equal access to the child, and therefore you must be able to communicate one with the other for the sake of the child. She said it plainly. She keeps saying it.
Yes.
And I say the same thing with her as well, and so I know you do too, Dr. Denise Charles. I want to thank you as always for helping us through this as a relationship coach. You make it seem so easy. I know it seems easy, but you tell us what we have to do. You say it to us. It's like giving us the medicine without the sugar. We get it. We get it immediately. So that's the tough love that we love to have. Yeah. Someone says, wow, Dr. Charles, you look lovely, and the beautiful smile is infectious.
Oh dear. Thank you so much.
I'm telling you, they're watching you. They're watching you indeed. Thank you as always, Dr. Yes, please.
Can I invite the audience to join me this evening at 8 p.m. for my live talk show on Facebook Live, Love Story 246. We're going to be talking about self-love and how important self-love is. We know that we're in the season of love and the season of Valentine's, and it's not just about your partner, your love for your partner, but it's also about your love for yourself. And we're going to be unpacking self-love and seeing how that can also impact your relationship and impact your life on the whole. What it is and what it's not.
On Facebook today?
On Facebook.
At 8 o'clock?
Facebook Live tonight at 8 p.m.
All right, folks, Facebook tonight at 8 o'clock. Self-love. How to love yourself. Better understanding yourself, and then hopefully it impacts better on your relationship as well. Dr. Charles, thank you so much. Facebook Live tonight at 8 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome indeed. Our relationship coach, Dr. Denise Charles, we took a look today at co-parenting and how to manage yourself and your relationship with a child when the child finds itself in an environment where the other partner is living with another person. They've moved on, you haven't yet, but the child is in the center of all of it. How do we do so? Facebook Live this evening, Self-Love with Dr. Denise Charles. We're taking a break here. We're coming back in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.vb, and together we will travel the world.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspiring.
Could that be your way of life, really? Could that be your way of life? That's a look at how this guest, or next guest, or Beijing Afar, who lives at the Essequibo coast in Ghana, that's how they live, day in, day out. His name is Hilka Shepper. He is a Barbadian living there in Ghana. Good morning to you, Hilka.
Good morning, Pearson.
Thank you for joining us this morning. That is a totally different way of living from what we live here. What is it that caused you in the first place to want to transplant yourself from the way of life as we know it to that way of life?
Wow, that would take a book. My connection with God, my faith, my religion as well, I guess I could say is what drew me here to this, a decision to do something more with my life, rather than just living for myself and, just existing in a world where we tend to become very self-centered and selfish.
You could have chosen anywhere else on earth to do all of that, but you chose the Essequibo area. Why there?
Wow. Let's just say a lot of things really came into play with that. I'd have to say my grandfather, actually, interestingly enough, he was Eric Hassel. He was ship's captain. That would be from Eric Hassel and Sons, a shipping company.
Yes.
What? Yeah. He sailed the schooner between Guyana and Barbados. This is way back in the 40s and so on, and I grew up and I heard stories about it. And Guyana just always kind of remained in my mind. And then I traveled here about 24 years ago, and I saw the country and I fell in love with it, and went back home and told my wife, at some point we need to find ourselves in Guyana. I figured it was just going to be a visit, but I had no idea that God had a much bigger plan in place, because at that time I was not a Christian, I was not a Seventh-day Adventist, and I just went on about life as usual, and then the Lord started putting different things in place for us. When I became a Christian, I was baptized, a Seventh-day Adventist in 2000. My family and I completely all together. We moved a bit we were in St. Lucia at that time. We moved from there, came back to Barbados, went back to St. Lucia. We moved back to St. Lucia. While we were in Barbados, the Lord was really speaking to me, and I felt the need to do more. Things were doing well for us, I must say. I kind of pulled my family up from what they were comfortable with in Barbados, because we lived right behind the church we attended. It was really great. We attended the Breath of Life Seventh-day Adventist Church. And it was very good. My wife enjoyed the idea that she could just walk across the road and get to church and that sort of thing. We were very comfortable, as I said, but there was just something in me that was longing for something more. I didn't want to be, this may sound bad, I didn't want to be a bench warmer.
Yes.
If you understand what I mean.
Yes,
I didn't want to be a bench warmer. And, this is very emotional for me, because the decision to do this, it took a lot. It took a lot to, I don't want to use the word convince my wife and, to do this. But I kind of prayed about it a lot and left it to God to help make the decision.
Yes.
And my wife said to me, well, if we're going to do this, then God has to tell her, that he wants us to do it. And I realized that my family would not be able to handle the move directly to Guyana one time. So we decided that we would go to St. Lucia first, and we would live off grid in St. Lucia, using solar power and not the grid power and so on, and water and whatnot. I guess you could call it a sort of a adaptation period, if you want to, right? Because I knew that we were coming to that song, I Come From a Land of Under?
Yes, sir.
Where women go and men plunder.
That's right. Can you hear the thunder? The police, yes.
Right. Well, Guyana, you got to think of Guyana like that. All right? Because you're coming here, and now Guyana is really moving ahead very quickly right now, but before it was, it is still a very wild country. I can see jaguars or panthers, black tigers in my backyard kind of thing here where I live. So, yeah, but I knew that it would be a real change because, we don't exactly have snakes in Barbados and stuff like that, not the kind to worry about. You don't get anacondas and stuff like that there.
Yes.
But Guyana's a whole nother story. So I decided we needed to have a sort of a transition period. So we spent a few years in St. Lucia living off-grid, away from the road, that kind of thing. And then we decided we stayed there for about 5 years, and we decided it was time to move.
Yes.
And it was time to do something. It was time to, as a friend once said, get ready, get ready, get ready. You need to be ready. As in the video there, it's all natural here. We actually cleared a lot of land in order to do what we're doing here. But in moving here, we hadn't been decided exactly where we were going to be. We were thinking that we would be a lot further in the interior. This was, wow. I don't know if you know, there's an area called Lethem. It's on the border of Brazil and Guyana.
Yes.
That's very, very far in the interior, and it takes a really long time to get there. Usually people fly to get there because it can be a pretty rough drive. But we checked that out and said, wow, that is going to be a little too hard for us. So we decided, let's try to find somewhere else. And we spoke to some folks, and they recommended that we come on the Essequibo coast and visit the village that we are actually in. It's called Kapui Lake. And it's a beautiful little village, the population of about 540 people.
Okay.
The Amerindian people are a wonderful and amazing people. You gotta love them. The simplicity of life. Coming here, we were just impressed with the way they were, the way they lived. We saw the difficulties that they were facing, and we really wanted to do something. We wanted to make a difference. I should mention this. We weren't sanctioned by the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We weren't asked to come here or anything like that as missionaries. But we chose to be here as missionaries because, as I said earlier, I just didn't want to be a bench warmer.
Yes.
And, God says, go ye into all the world, preach and teach.
Indeed. Do you miss the normal amenities to which you had grown accustomed, in terms of access to this or that? Or do you have full connectivity you're using the internet at the moment, but do you have access to a whole host of other things that normal people, quote unquote, have access to?
Wow. Well, that's a really good question, because in Guyana, you have to learn to improvise a lot. Where we live, actually, we don't live in the actual village itself. We live about 2 miles out. It's still on the Amerindian Reserve, but we're literally on the fringe of the range of the telephone service, cell phone service. So I'm using cell data here to contact you. All right, so where communication is concerned, we're literally on the fringe of that, and we are out here in the bush. Let me give you a little story. Can I do that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah? All right. When we came here, we lived in the village for a year. Actually, in the village, we were invited to live in one of their community houses. It was a very small house. I could say that the entire house was a little bit bigger than my bedroom back in Barbados. Yeah. So there are things you really got to adjust to. There was absolutely there's no running water there. There's no electricity there. You wanted to wash, you had to take your clothes, go to the lake and wash your clothes at the lake. You wanted to bathe, you either went to the lake, collected water and brought it home, or you went and bathed in the lake.
Yes.
But it was difficult for us there because we were missionaries. A lot of people came to us, and we began after a year to be a bit overwhelmed with the amount of need that we found in the community here. People were coming to our home, at 2 o'clock in the morning with snake bites and, it was, malaria, dengue, you name it. You can get it here. But I'm not talking about in Georgetown. You don't really got to worry about that sort of stuff up there. But here, you could catch almost anything. But most times you can't get malaria in this area. But guys come from working in the interior and they come in with it and they end up very sick and they come looking for us for help.
Yes.
And sometimes we can, sometimes we can't.
Boy, what a storied life you live indeed. But I'm told that if you do come to Barbados, it takes you a little while to reacclimatize, doesn't it? How long would it take you to resettle your head when you come back to Barbados?
I need at least 2 days. At least 2 days. Yeah.
Why?
Well, for one thing, okay, let me give you an idea what it's like to get here to where I am. You land at the Ogle Airport in Georgetown. You take a car from there to the market, that is Starbrook Market. And now, if you've got the money, you can hire a car that can take you straight from the airport, and you go all the way down to Parika, which is on the Essequibo, on I believe it's the east bank of the Essequibo. And but when you don't have the resources, so you take a car that can get you into town, then you take a boat that crosses over the Demerara River, then you take a bus that will take you to Parika, and then you take a boat that crosses the Essequibo, and you have a choice there. Is either a ferry or a speedboat. The ferry is a lot cheaper, the speedboat is a little more expensive, but it gets you there pretty quickly. Then you take a car or a bus from the Supanam side of the Essequibo to what they call here road top of Lake Kapui, and then you have to get another vehicle to take you inland from the road top to what they call Lake Top, and then at Lake Top we take another boat to cross the lake, and then from there we ride our motorbike 2 miles inland to get home.
Wow, that's just so much. It makes one feel as if nobody knows you guys exist. You could actually hide out there and you could live happily ever after. Now,
you could look me up on Google Earth. You could find me.
You can find you, but that's so interesting indeed. But I want to thank you. It's so wonderful talking to you, Eric. There's such a story. You need to write your book. And when you do, I can't wait to read it indeed. So please do so very soon. Eric Shaper, thank you so much for joining us from Guyana. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
You're welcome, my friend. We'll take a break here. We're coming back in just a moment.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of your creativity. If you are an entrepreneur, artist, baker, designer, author, or have done anything you think should be highlighted, email us at morninbarbados@cbc.bb. Let us show the world our exceptional Bajan youth.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share? Then Mornin Barbados would love to feature your book in our The Next Chapter segment. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. That's morning without the G. Come and let us turn those pages together.
Because you love English Premier League, MCTV has got it back. Now you can watch all the games of the English Premier League plus UEFA and NFL on MCTV. Current customers can upgrade to Maxback Extra at just $23. Call MCTV today at 228-6288 to upgrade or come in and sign up for a new service. Football fans, let MCTV get you back in the game.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Affair segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. And together we will travel the world.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
Some ask, what makes...
Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Don't have a lot of time left, but as you know, on the weekend we asked you to tag at Mornin Barbados 246 in a photo. We have a couple winners, a couple couples who will join us tomorrow morning for our Valentine's Day show. So don't miss it. Wake up early o'clock in the morning tomorrow, okay? That's one. So here they are. That's one couple who will be joining us tomorrow. And there we are. That's the other couple who will be joining us tomorrow. They gave their story, and so we will hear more tomorrow. Don't miss it, indeed. Also, last night was the night that Bajans all over the world were glued to their television and large screens all over Barbados. They need to see this.
Barbados, get up. Good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Good